and enjoying Friday. Sun's shining out here. Weekend's coming, so hopefully that's bringing some joy into your day. So I'm going to continue talking about the yamas. These are these ethical principles that we should hopefully be kind of contemplating and working with in our lives to help us. I've been talking about it all week, but the first three that we talked about was ahimsa, which is kind of the center of the spoke, if you will, of the wheel. The sense of do no harm, or of cultivating compassion and nonviolence for self and others, is paramount to all the other yamas, really. And the second one was truthfulness, or satya. Third one was asteya, or non-stealing. So if you missed class, and I just got them all up on the website, so you can take a look back if you missed any of them. And then today we're going to talk about Brahmacharya. And this is, I think, a very unique aspect of the yamas. Originally, it's also called continence, which I think is a little bit of a strange word, but the actual translation of Brahmacharya is walking in God consciousness. And you can replace God with whatever, your sense of that is. Walking in higher consciousness, light consciousness, divine love consciousness, but, fill in the blanks. But it's this sense of aligning yourself to this level of consciousness that we're trying to cultivate. And how Brahmacharya works in that realm is starting to find moderation amongst the senses. So it used to be abstinence was kind of like the main thing of Brahmacharya, but for those of us who are not living aesthetic lifestyles, that's not really what it's about. It's really about the wise choice of the use of our energy, and not just sexual energy, but all of our energy. Where do we spend our time in our mind and in our actions? So moderation can give us a lot of balance, and it can give us discipline so that we are not overrun by our senses, and our mind is not dominated by the seeking of pleasure. So how this can show up is things like, what kind of media are you allowing into your life? Are you oversaturated by media? Are you paying attention to what you're reading, what you're watching, who you're inviting into your home, what kind of belongings you're bringing into your home, what you're putting in your body? All the things that we can really notice around how much input what we're taking in, and how that's affecting us. So moderation in all activities, and everybody knows the feeling of when you're not overindulgent in whatever it is that you're overindulgent in. You savor the experiences that much more when there's not an overindulgence. And so having this sense of boundaries, not boundaries, but just moderation in all that you do can really help us to stay the course. So, where are your energy leaks? Where do you need to kind of plug the holes? Do you give your energy away in your thoughts? Are you a worrier? Do you kind of like think about the potentials of future that may or may not come? Do you ruminate over the past? Do you give too much attention toward one specific thing? Do you not give enough attention toward another aspect of your life? How can you find the balance and moderation in these things? So that's pretty much what Brahmacharya is all about. And as always, all the yamas, when we cultivate a connection to these yamas and work with the discipline of the yamas, really what we're doing is creating freedom. That when we are not ruled by our greed or our senses or our thoughts that are not accurate, we really cultivate a sense of freedom where we can walk in God consciousness a little bit more. So know that even though there can be restraint and constraint attached to the yamas, they all start with the don'ts, right? Like, don't do this, don't do this. Those constraints really are, it's kind of like a child. You know how kids need boundaries? They need to be held in a boundary so that they feel safe to move within their realms. And we as adults need this too. We need to know what our boundaries are so that we can safely move into that space of freedom. So try not to think of it as something you can't do or shouldn't do, but rather, how do you cultivate freedom for yourself? So close your eyes and sit up straight and tall and take a moment to just drop in. Have you been working with the yamas this week? Has this been something that you're contemplating, that one of the greatest advices I was ever given about the yamas is choose one and really work with it instead of being overwhelmed by, I got to do this and I got to do that. And feeling like you're falling down on the job when you're not following everything perfectly. Instead, just focus on one thing. So as you're settling in to your body right now, out of all these yamas that you've heard about this week, if you've been here or just for today, what little tiny nugget can you take to cultivate within your life right now? Feel that sense of dropping into the body and the breath, allowing for the sense of ease to start to come over you, where your shoulders are relaxed. You have that sense of ease starting to come. Is your breath able to slow down? Maybe you've been real busy this morning. Go, go, go in your work or in your mind. See if you can let the balm of your breath kind of filter through you and over you and give you that state of presence, slowing down, being here now. Can you ground yourself? Can you feel the spacious upward movement through your chakras, where you both root and rise? Is there space in your being for light to shine in, for light to shine out? And as you set an intention for your practice, if it has a connection to Brahmacharya, what is needing moderation for you? Where are you slightly out of balance? Are there ways that your energy is not being used wisely, that you can make a slight shift? And how can your intention reflect that? Place your palms together and deepen that intention. Set your focus. All right, let's open our eyes and come onto your mat and let's begin to practice. Okay. So, what a gift the time on your mat is. So, let's try to just suspend what's coming next, what's the rest of the day, what's the future, what's the past. Just try to, as best as you can, be in the space right here and right now. As you lie down, notice the change of your breath. Notice the change in your joint spaces. Maybe this is the first time you've gotten on the ground today. Maybe this is the first time you've been horizontal since you woke up this morning. So just enjoy a change of gravity. And just shake your legs a little bit, rocking, pigeon-toed, and then turning your toes out. Let your whole leg find that movement. And then when you're ready, stretch the arms overhead if it's comfortable and reach into your sides. Just wake your body up. Whatever's coming, let it come. How's your breath? Breathe deeply and then bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a hug. Rock around a little bit, sense into where you are on your sacrum. See what it feels like to have that ease come in as you rock. All right, and then circle a little bit. Circling one direction with your knees, circling the other direction with your knees. Just finding a little ease. And then start to open up the hips and notice what it feels like to spread your knees apart and bring them back in. How are your hip joints today? And then right knee into the chest, left leg stretches long and roll around in your feet and your ankles. Enjoy. One of the best things about warming up in your practice is just coming home into the body and feeling. So come into that sensation, feel on the inside. Okay, and then just change legs, left knee in, right leg stretches long. Feel the elongation of your spine. Okay. All right, and then reach again into extension, arms and legs coming wide. Exhale, knees into the chest, giving yourself a little hug, maybe the chin up. A couple more times. Spread out your limbs, coming open into an expansive starfish, wiggling fingers and toes. Exhale, chin and chest up. Maybe on this last one, you want to hold and squeeze a little bit. Just see where your muscles are today. Are you alive and well? Knees into the chest, chin up when you're ready. And then come over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So if ahimsa, this do no harm, is our primary focus, can you always in your practice let this be your stopgate? Where you choose to be in your practice, are you treating yourself well? Let's start to move into the cat-cows. Enjoy the way your spine feels. Make sure you remember that your head and your tail are connected to the rest of your spine. So feel into the way your head moves, the way your pelvis, your sacrum moves. Feel into the way your spine connects to your rib cage. Feel how your shoulder blades, although not connected to your spine, are very much related to the movement of your spine and how they slide and glide on the rib cage. And then feel free to move any way you want to move. So you can sway from side to side. You can circle the hips. You can circle the knees. You can find any kind of movement that is right for you. Try not to think too much. Just feel into the body. All right, and then walk your hands forward and come like dog pose for a minute, but on our knees. So stretch back. Feel how are your shoulders in this position. If this is not comfortable, try bringing your elbows down to the ground and bring your elbows closer in. If you're okay, allow the thoracic spine to move toward the floor as you lift under the armpits. So have that sense of restraint just a little bit so we're not falling. We practice restraint all the time in our yoga practice, learning how to be at ease while stabilizing and supporting yourself and not just falling into postures. So this restraint gives us freedom, and it's the same with Brahmacharya. So feel it in the body, what a little bit of counter restraint feels like when we feel ourselves falling into something. And then come back, walk your hands back, any type of movement that's available. And then find your way back to a full child's pose. So hips gravitate back toward the heels. Where do you want your knees to be? Do you want them wide or close? Stretch your arms to a comfortable place and experiment. If your shoulders don't like this movement, try different things. You can turn your palms toward each other or up. You can take your arms wider. You can bend your elbows. There's lots of different vectors of movement to attempt to sense into what your shoulders and neck appreciate. And then let's walk our hands over to one side of the mat and open the rib cage up. Once again, if this is too much for a shoulder joint, find the side ribs. Don't worry about so much what your arm is doing, but extend from shoulder to hip. Relax the base of the skull. Try not to take the posture where it doesn't need to go. How's your breathing? Come back to the other side and lengthen through there. Relax the base of the skull. Breathing deeply, drop weight into the hips. Feel the opening in the side of the body. Enjoy the space. All right, and then come back to center. cat-cow your way here or swirl your spine around, whatever feels nice. We're going to pick up our feet a couple of inches off the floor and rock our feet left and right. So kind of like windshield wipers. If this is no good for your knees, keep your feet down and rock your head from left to right. Just see what kind of side movement you can get into the low back, warming up the low back a little bit. And then place your heels down, curl your toes under, and lengthen up to dog pose. Enjoy. So, you know, this coming home posture, it's very rare that we do yoga practice, at least with me, without doing a dog pose. And if dog pose is not a good pose for you, you can always do half dog. So walls, chairs, tables, there's ways. If you have one shoulder that can't go overhead, you can do a half dog with one arm, holding on to something. So find what's available to help you elongate the spine. Notice the space between the ribs and the pelvis in particular, and create as much space in there as you can. Root your hands and feet. Feel any movement that you need or want in your body. Reconnect with the breath. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana, feet hip width apart. Relax. Feel free to move around if you want. Wiggle your hips, rock a little bit. Sometimes some vibration and bouncing can really loosen things up. Inhale for a halfway lift. Feel the sit bones lift high, the thigh bones move back. Stretch the backs of the knees. Exhale, bend the knees a little bit and push your feet off the floor. Rise up, coming to a standing posture. If you're dizzy, pause, squeeze to the midline. If you're okay, lift the arms up and lean back. Feel that same pose that we did on the floor, that extended child's pose where we were allowing our chest to move toward the earth and the armpits lift. See what it feels like to have that action in the thoracic spine, opening some things up. And then imagine that you have, come back to neutral, imagine that you have a pull-up bar that you're pulling on. So you pull yourself up as best as you can, feel the work of the shoulders. And then one more time, reaching the arms up, exhale. Imaginary pull-up bar. One more time, we're going to take our elbows all the way down to our sides as we do this. Open the chest, and then exhale and round forward. Relax the spine. Wag the tail, move the spine around. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Step the left foot forward, the right foot comes back. All right, so this is different. We usually start with the other side. How does that feel? Just, habit, breaking habits. Okay. Open up through the body, find the breath, let the hip flexor of the back leg open, and let's start to move here, waking up the sciatic nerve a little bit, tucking the chin toward the chest as you straighten your legs some, back and forth. Breathing. Bending that front knee, straightening that front knee. Doesn't matter how far you go, part of moderation is knowing your limitations in your body. Brahmacharya can show up in so many different ways. It's not just wise use of our energy, but it's knowing what is the wise use of our energy. That's the first step, is the awareness. Sometimes we don't even know when we're giving too much of our energy away or being stingy and hoarding our energy. Find your way up, rise up, come into Crescent Lunge. Feel the reach of the spine, open things up. What's available here? Where do you want your arms to be? So when you're finding the openness through your heart and your chest, experiment with different places for your arms. What's giving space to your lumbar spine? Do you need to bend the back knee a little bit to find a neutral low back? Try not to hyperextend the lumbar spine. Engage your core. Breathe your way into wherever you're positioning. Exhale and release the hands down. Back foot comes forward. Fold again. Inhale, halfway lift, the spine grows. Stay here for a moment. If you have blocks, stick them underneath your hands and feel what it feels like to have a really long spine. Where are your tendencies? Does your rib cage fall to the floor? Do you sink into the low back? Do you tend to hyperextend your neck? Where do you lose that congruency in the elongation of your spine? And fold again. Let's take the right foot forward, left foot back. Come into a lunge on this side, opening the chest. Feel the hip flexor stretch on that back leg. Enjoy. Breathing. Okay, let's square the hips and begin to straighten and bend the front knee. Try not to get lost. Be here. So if you tend to, waste your energy by traveling around in the past or the future, just when you find yourself doing that, just keep bringing yourself home. It's like a gentle leash. We don't want to yank on ourselves, shame ourselves, berate ourselves. We just want to gently come back home. Once you're steady, drop weight into your feet, rise up to crescent lunge on the side. Where do you want your arms to be in space? What's giving you a sense of openness across the breath? Pay attention to your breathing first. Are you able to breathe well? Is your breath locked up in any way? Are you able to breathe through your nose? If your arm's going into some sort of extension, what's happening in your thoracic spine? What's happening in your lumbar spine? What's happening in your neck? Can you feel that sense of stability, especially in your lumbar spine? So try not to overextend the lumbar spine. Use your core. See what it feels like to maybe bend that back knee a little bit so you can drop the tailbone and lift the pubic bone. Find what's going to give you a neutral low back. Exhale and release the hands back to the ground. Walk that back foot forward. Dissipate the energy of that posture. Come back into symmetry. Inhale, long spine again. Thigh bones rooting back. Feel the weight even across your feet. Relax your neck. Exhale and fold. Chair pose. Take your feet down onto the ground. Decide whether you want to block between your knees or your legs together. See what feels good. And then lift your arms wherever. Once again, it doesn't matter where you end up. So if when you bring your arms up over your head, your neck gets really crunched, or you overarch your back, or your floating ribs fly out, do something different so that you can integrate the spine. Find the breath and the integration of the spine before going further with where you want your arms to be. If your arms are overhead, this is the back bend. Feel it in your thoracic spine. Root the femur bones back into the hips. Breathe deeply. Keep the neck soft and relaxed. And then rise all the way up. Open the chest and release the arms down. Few shrug shoulders, shake out your hands, grab a strap. Okay. Find your breath. Find your stable ground. We're just going to do a few passes to open the chest here. So we're going to take the strap as wide as our hands need to be so that we can take our arms back at the same time and forward. So, this hurts my shoulder a little bit to do this. So I need to just make sure I'm going a little wider to make sure that the pass through the range of motion is healthy for your shoulder. So be where you need to be for this to feel good. If you tend to get a lot of tension across the base of the skull, be very mindful to relax as you go. Okay, slow through the passes, don't overdo. And the next time you come into a chest opener, just see where you are. Are you comfortable here? Do you need to take your arms wider on the strap? Make sure the base of your skull is relaxed. Drop the shoulders, feel the chest open and broaden. Breathe into the lower rib cage, inner spiral the thighs. And then relax and melt the arm straps. Coming back down, rise up, deep breath, lean back a little bit, exhale and fold forward. Relax the spine again. Wag the tail, ease. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. With your non-dominant foot, step back to a plank. So I'm trying to remember to say that as often as possible to help us remember that we are creatures of habit, and let's try not to be such creatures of habit. Find the novel pathways in the body to inspire your presence. Have yourself hang out in a plank. You can always put your knees down if your body needs some support. Shoulders are away from the ears. Look at the floor so your neck is nice and neutral. And feel, where do you stabilize? Can you feel yourself hug in toward the midline from your sternum to your heels? But of course, through your core a whole lot. fine. Let's go ahead and put the knees down onto the ground. Lower yourself to the floor. Find your breath, cobra pose. And then exhale and melt back down. So before we come to another pass, let's find the restraint that lives inherently in back bends if we're stabilizing ourselves. Put your hands down, put your head on your hands, and without any restraint, lift your right leg up as far as it will go and notice the low back. We've done this a lot to just sense into what not having any moderation in a posture feels like, and then release that back down. Now stabilize through your transverse abdominis. Lift your pubic bone toward your belly button. Feel the hugging, the shrink wrap around your torso. Feel your glutes a little bit. They don't have to be, on fire. Feel the legs stretch into the floor. And now lift that right leg again without losing some of the stability. Don't let your moderation take you so far to the other side that you can't find ease, breath, or movement. So find the balance. This is hard to do. So we practice in our body so that the real work of the actions in the world, we have a little bit of skill built. Are you able to relax as you hold this stable posture? How does your back feel? And then let's release that leg down onto the ground. Let's do the second side. So no restraint. Lift that leg as far as it'll go. Feel into what's happening in your back. Are you over-engaging your glutes at the expense of everything else? Is your lumbar spine smushed? And then relax and melt that leg down into the floor. Engage your core. Pubic bone to navel. Feel the sideways. Feel the engagement of your legs moving into the ground. And then lift that leg again. The glutes are working, but they're not alone. They're not isolated. Feel the integrity. There may be frustration because you can't go as far as you want to or could go before. So part of Brahmacharya is learning to be okay with the frustration of restraint, that really we're cultivating stability and freedom in our minds when we have some control over ourselves. So find the breath. See if you can feel the ease, feel the freedom in your lumbar spine. And then relax that leg back down onto the ground. Come up onto all fours. Feel yourself swirl around and release anything from that pose that just happened in the body. Deep breaths. Find your way to dog pose when you're ready. Stretch and lengthen through the spine. Breathe deeply here. Full breaths in, full breaths out. Walk your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana, and then we're going to find our way down onto the ground. Lie on your back for a moment. Okay. We're going to do some work on the psoas, the deep muscle that we need to be active to support us. So you have two choices depending on how healthy your back is feeling today. I'll show the easier version and then the harder version. So the easier version is to have the heels or total foot on the floor. And we're just lifting one knee up and then dropping. And you can experiment. You can have toes on the floor, feet on the floor, heels on the floor. And we're lifting one knee up, dropping it down, and then the other and dropping it down. So slow and steady in those movements. If you want something a little bit more challenging, pick up your knees. So your knees are over the pelvis. You can have them a little closer to the spine than just smack over the hips. So we'll find the sweet spot for you. And now we're going to either tap our heel or our toe into the floor and lift it back up and then switch sides. So whichever choice you're making for the health of your back, make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're resting on the floor with your spine. See if you can feel into those deep hip flexors. Your psoas muscle is really deep in the body. It attaches onto your spine, onto your vertebrae, and then travels down to your femur bone, the top of your femur bone. See if you can trace that in the body. Feel into the psoas muscle. It's so deeply connected to your breathing. So try not to hold your breath. Notice if your hips start to rock, if you try to hike a hip up to try to get away from having to isolate this muscle. So as always, we don't really work in isolation, but sometimes it's nice to isolate a muscle group just so you heighten your nervous system awareness, kind of light it up, wake it up. How's your breath? right, and then 2 feet onto the ground. Rest your belly for a moment. You can even put your hands on your low belly so you can feel your psoas muscles, give them some energy. All right, and then starfish your body out. Spread out your limbs, wiggle toes. Exhale, chin up, knees in. Roll over onto your side again. Find your way either onto all fours, or if you're able to, dog pose. Okay, I don't want to overdo the dog poses. Find your breath, either on all fours or in dog pose. Lift your right leg up. Square hips to begin, and then stack that hip. Open up the inner rim of the pelvis a little bit. Stretch, maybe bend your knee. And then square up the hips. Chin and chest, or knee and chin come toward each other. Hug in. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, bring your foot forward, coming into a lunge. Place the back knee down onto the ground. Hug your front heel and the back knee toward each other. Here's another bit of restraint for the psoas muscle that we just did for the lumbar spine. We're now going to do it for the front of the pelvis. So as you fall into this pose without any restraint, just notice how deep you can go into a lunge. Feel the stretch across your hip flexor. That's your psoas, along with some other stuff. But if we go too far without support, we're just leaning in the ligaments, and this destabilizes us instead of stabilizes us, even though we feel free, right? Like we can go as far as we want. So back away, hug your front heel and knee, back knee, front heel toward each other. Feel the stabilization. There's a little work within the stretch. And then rise up. Maybe your arms come up, maybe they come out, maybe you come into a twist, just fine. Whatever movement is in your body right now that your body wants, listen to yourself. Root your big toe, root your heel, hug it back toward the knee. How's the lumbar spine when you do this? Can you feel space? And then relax. Take the hands to the inside edge of your knee. The back knee can stay on the floor, or you can curl your toes under and lift that leg up. So notice the SI joints. Are you all wonked out by having too much? Are you going too deep, or is it just right? Do you need to bend the knee, the back knee a little bit, all the way to the floor perhaps? Do you need to lift the pelvis up a little bit to find that you're not compressing that left SI joint? Feel the spine grow. And then when you're ready, we're going to walk the back foot forward and come to a squat. Two-sided pose here, balance. Squat down, elbows inside the knees. Feel the work of the feet. Open your body up. Feel the breath. And then rise all the way up, arms to the sky. Heel toe your feet back in, fold forward. Step back to dog pose or on all fours. You can do the work of the swinging that back leg up. Even if you're on all fours, you can do the work now of lifting your left leg up in the air. Hips are square to begin, so you feel your glutes. And then you can open up your hip. And you can do this on all fours or in dog pose, whichever is available to you. Feel free to bend your knee. What is the right side of your body? Can you lift underneath? And then square the hips again. Whatever you're doing on all fours or dog pose, we're going to exhale and bring the knee and chest and head toward each other. Inhale, bring it on back. Exhale, bring your foot forward, coming into a lunge on this side. Back knee is down onto the ground. Once again, as you come up, see if you can feel that sense of just falling, leaning. And, you know, there's a lot of freedom, a supposed freedom. We feel like, oh, nothing's going to get me down. I can just do what I want. There's a sense of following something to its endpoint. And it's not healthy for us to do this. So root your front heel, hug back toward your knee, let your knee hug back toward your heel, and notice your low back. There's probably a little bit more space in there, a little bit more freedom that came, a little bit more stability. Find your inner thighs, open up. Now the risk of having stability is we can overdo. So are you a type A kind of personality where you're like a little, it must mean a lot is better? So are you aggressive in your strengthening? See if you can have just the sweet spot as you find your way up with your arms or out with your arms or twist with your arm, whatever feels good. Can you find the sweet spot of stabilization and ease? This is such a tricky balance for us to find often, and it's moment by moment, right? It's never something that we can just find and then, oh yeah, we got that, and we don't have to think about it again. But the more we find it, the more it becomes a habit. We have easier access to it. And then release your hands inside edge of that foot. See what it feels like to open that hip and decide where are you best with your pelvis. Do you want to lift the back knee up off the ground? Do you need to lift the pelvis a little higher? Is it better to have your knee on the floor? Check in with not only the deep work in the front hip, which is obviously in deep flexion, but check in with the crunch that's happening on your right SI joint. Can you feel, is there too much compression? Is there just enough? And if these things are weird to you, you're like, I don't know if there's too much or not enough. The more you feel, the more you start to know. So trust yourself. Breathe. All right, step back one more time to dog pose. Breathe deeply here. Walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. One more time, coming to a chair. Drop your hips. If you need a block between your thighs, you can always take a block between your thighs for this posture, whatever is stabilizing for you. If you're able to, either bring your arms out in front of you or up over your head, whichever is available for your breath and your shoulders. And we're going to find a little twisting. Some twists, we let our body go with the twist, but for today, we're going to try to root, stabilize the pelvis down to the feet. Take a deep breath, only go where the body says go. So it's not a very deep twist. When we're stabilizing the pelvis, we can't twist very far. Be okay with that restraint. Arms back up, exhale, other side. Feel the back. One more time each side. Feel the thoracic spine. Use the muscles in your back. Use your obliques. And then come back up onto your tippy toes. Feel the breath. And then exhale, fold forward. Maybe you want to keep the block. Maybe you want to get rid of the block. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and come back down. Step your left foot forward, your right foot back. We're going to start on the opposite side from what we usually do. Find your breath. We're going to put the knee down again. Actually, keep it up for a moment. Come into Crescent Lunge. Find your way up. This time, only reach the right arm up in the air. Find the extension and open up through the side of your body. Try not to compress through the opposite side. Feel extension through both sides. Hug to the midline. Don't let your knees splay out. Find your breath. Feel your feet. And then come back up. We're going to switch sides. Other arm lifting up. And feel a little bit of a back bend here to see what it feels like to open your body up. Can you stabilize through your lumbar spine here? One more, third time, change your arms again. This time, either take your hand on your hip, your hand on your sacrum, or your hand to the back thigh, the hamstring, and reach up into a little bit of a twist and a little bit of a back bend. Stay hugging into the midline. Only go as far as your body can stabilize and breathe. And then exhale. Back foot comes forward, fold in half. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale, other foot comes back. Lunging with your right foot forward now. Open up your body, come on up. Find the breath. We're going to reach just the left arm up in the air. Feel some extension through that side. Stabilize. So because we're doing weird movements with our back, we want to make sure we're really rooted in our legs. Find the breath. And then switch sides. Other arm coming up. Stay in your lunge. Feel the roots of your feet dropping down, yielding. Find your midline. And then come back. Hand on your hip. So right hand on the hip. Right hand on the sacrum. Left arm up. Maybe your right hand comes to the back of the hamstrings. Reach and extend. So find whatever back bend's available, whatever twist is available, while stabilizing and finding that moderation. Use your core. Try not to forget that your inner thighs can work. You have that capacity to stretch, flex your psoas like we did before. Deep breaths. Exhale and release your hands. Come down onto all fours. And then let yourself come back to child's pose. Feel the deep compression in your hips, in your knees. Soften your body down. Come up onto all fours when you're ready. Breathe here. Take your left leg straight back behind you and your right arm out in front of you. Stabilize through the center of the body. Deep breath in. Exhale, hug in toward the midline. Inhale, bring it out. Exhale, bring it in. One more time, finding that spaciousness. Can you feel that that hugging in toward the middle gives you a sense of stability? When you are ready, let's go ahead and switch sides. So put that hand and knee down onto the ground and stretch your right leg behind you. Take your left arm out in front of you. Stabilize through your core. Deep breaths here. When you're ready, hug in. Inhale, breathe out. Or inhale, stretch out rather. Exhale, hug in. One more time. Feeling the extension, use your glutes, your core. Exhale. Finding that reach back. Place the hand and knee down onto the ground. Feel free to swirl around, move your spine, anything that feels nice. Okay. And then we're going to come down to our forearms. Lift up to a forearm dog pose. If this is not available, then don't do it. Choose a different way. Extend through the spine. Feel the symmetry, inner thighs moving back. Hug toward the midline with your arms. Relax your neck. Lift the shoulders away from the floor. And then we're going to walk back. You can always put your knees down first to just kind of find your way here. You can always put your hands facing toward each other. You can use a block between your arms, however you need to be. Once you're here, find that forearm plank. Breathing deeply. Feel the stability in the center of your body. Keep the neck soft and relaxed. Shoulders are away from the ears. Inner thighs lifting toward the sky. Is there ease somewhere? And put the knees down onto the ground. You can walk your forearms forward a little bit and come into Sphinx pose. Notice, do you fall? Does your low back fall? Can you feel the support of your core? Can you stretch into your legs? Use your glutes. Your glutes don't have to take over. They're part of the package. Notice the difference. Let everything go. Let your belly go. Let your legs go. Let your glutes go. Notice your low back. And then reestablish that support. Glutes, quads, core. Can you feel the freedom that this sense of restraint gives to the breath and to the spine? Okay, and then relax. Melt again. Bring your arms down at your sides. Turn your head one way or the other and windshield wiper your knees. Okay, come on up. Find your way to stand. So however you like to get up, you can come through dog pose if you want. If you're dizzy, just take a moment. You might need a strap for this, you might not. So you can have one close by. We're going to come into dancer pose. You can always hold on to some support if you need it. Let's stand on our left foot first. Right leg lifts up in the air. Okay, so find your foot. If you can't reach, you can always grab your pant legs or wrap a strap around your ankle. Inhale, lift that arm up or out, whatever's giving you that sense of stability. Try not to collapse in the pose and fall. Use your core, integrate your ribs, lift your pubic bone, lift up through your spine, and start to kick forward. So we may want to go really far, right? But that may not be what's available to our body today. So keep the hips square, keep the shoulders square, kick the foot into the hand, and go where your body is capable of going. So have some restraint. Feel free. Relax the neck. Breathe deeply here. Doesn't matter how far you go. Feel the work of that standing leg. Lots of work in the hip. And then come on up. Bring the knee high to the chest. Lift the spine. And place that foot down onto the ground. Root the right foot into the earth. This might feel a little bit more comfortable if you're right-handed to be standing on your right foot. Use a strap if you need it. Use a wall if you need it. Grab onto your ankle with a hand or a strap. And then, if you're wobbly, if you're like, oh, where am I? It's okay to find balance with support of a wall. Reach your arm up or out or wherever you want to be. Stretch your knee toward the floor instead of letting it come out to the side. Feel the integration like we've been practicing in those stabilizing back bends, using your glutes and your core. Find your breath. Start to kick forward wherever you want to go. Hips are square, ribs are square, shoulders are square. Feel the thigh bone move back and the hip move in. Feel the knee you're standing on. Have a little softness in there. How's the base of the skull? Can you relax? Where does your body want to go? How deep can you find without losing the integration, especially through your rib cage? We tend to fly our ribs out, poke our ribs out, and this compresses our lumbar spine. Feel the core. And then come back up. Slowly bring that knee up toward the chest. Extend through the spine. Deep breath here. And then place your foot down onto the ground. Shake out your hands. Move around your spine. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Whatever feels good. Ground yourself. Deep breath in. Big open heart. Exhale and fold. Check in. How's your back? Relax your neck. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Come all the way to the floor so you can step back to a plank first or just come onto your hands and knees and come down to the ground. Have your legs now 2 feet. Hold on to your ankles. If this pose is not available, try just doing one leg at a time to just stretch your quads a little bit more. Let's all do this. Stretch, hold on to your left leg, hold on to your ankle, and see that same back bend we did in the beginning of class where we were learning to stabilize. See if you can move the tailbone, engage your glutes, pubic bone lifting toward belly button. Find that stability. Feel the stretch in your quads. And now fall, let go of everything. And do you notice that you lose the stretch in your quads? So we've lost the integrity of that kinesthetic chain through our body that stabilizes our lumbar spine. Reintegrate the core. Feel the glute work. Kick your foot into your hand. And then switch sides. Put that knee down onto the ground. So much of our yoga practice is often stretching the back of the body. We do a lot. So feel yourself give way, feel into that, and then feel into the support. We do a lot to stretch the hamstrings, the back of the body, the glutes, dog pose, Uttanasana, things we do every single class. Sometimes we don't spend a fair amount of time stretching our quadriceps. So see what this feels like. Use a strap around your ankle if you need it. Keep the back of the neck long. Are you stabilizing with your core? And then relax and melt. Relax your knees. Let's flip over onto our back. We're going to do this one and then the full pose. So come onto your back. Find a bridge pose. So heels down. We're going to lift our hips up. Come to the pose however your body appreciates today. Root your feet. See if you can feel the hamstrings and the glutes work in balance with the inner thighs and quads. Find all your muscles hugging onto your bones. How's your lumbar spine? And then release and melt that down. Now flip over onto your belly. The last back bend we'll do. See what it feels like to stabilize on your core. You decide whether this is a pose in your practice or not. Grab onto a strap or your ankles. Take a deep breath in. As you lift up, try not to let the knees splay out. Keep them in line. Open across the chest. The neck is soft. Breathe. Let your diaphragm move. Where are you stabilizing from? Can you feel an imaginary block between your thighs? Are you using your psoas muscles to both flex and stretch? All right, and then relax and melt. Turn your head one way or the other and windshield wiper your knees. All right, let's come onto all fours. Don't go back into child's pose. Stay on all fours. Move things around. Swirl through your spine. Move through your neck. Breathe. We're going to come down onto our back. Lie down on your back. Have a strap handy. Right knee into the chest. Feel the breath. Feel the beginning of stretching your glutes that worked really hard for you. Wrap the right foot around the strap, or the strap around the right foot, and lift that leg. So not only are we stretching the back line of the body, but we're also trying to stay elongated in our spine. So feel the root of the femur bone move away from the shoulder. Let the back of your head rest. Root your hip down into the earth. Take the strap into the left hand and cross the right leg to the left of it. Feel into your sacrum. Can you spread the SI joints just a bit? Bring that leg up 2 feet into the strap. So start to peek at what a forward fold feels like. Not fully going there yet, and then let go. Right foot comes out of the strap, right foot on the floor, or right leg on the floor, whichever serves. Lift that left foot up into the strap, root the left hip down. Stay in your breath. Let's cross the left foot to the right a little bit. So opening up those outer hip muscles. Breathe deeply here. Soften. And then relax and let go of the strap. Okay, put your feet on the floor. Lift your hips, scoot hips right, knees come up and drop left. Simple twist. Deep breaths. Open across the chest. Let your head turn too. Okay, pick the knees up. Come back to center, scoot hips left, knees up, drop right. All right, and then inhale and lift your knees up. Bring your knees into your chest. Now you get to forward fold like you might be craving. Feel free to come into happy baby pose or a rocking plow pose or knees to the chest or a full plow pose, whatever your body is asking for. And then find your way into Shavasana. There's no rush. Let your body do what it wants to do until you get to a point where you're ready to rest. So when you are ready to rest, decide how you want to be. Do you want your limbs wide? Do you want your limbs supported? Putting a bolster underneath your knees might feel really nice after back bending. So just see what it is that your body is asking for. Shavasana is the gift of rest, and this sense of restraint that we cultivate in the aspects of Brahmacharya, we can let that go. So the freedom that is had when we contain ourselves, we get to really enjoy being deeply present with the restfulness. It's like a savoring that we can do when we've had a sense of restraint. We get to release that restraint now, and ease comes. I think I gave this example the other day about asteya, but this sense of, if you eat a lot of sugar and suddenly sugar doesn't taste the same, and then you don't eat sugar for a long time, and then you have a single bite of a piece of fruit, and it's overwhelming how sweet a strawberry can be, or a blueberry, or a slice of an apple, or whatever. Because we've lost that overstimulation of our senses from eating a lot of sugar. So it's just a simple example of how when we give ourselves the gift of moderation, we enjoy the freedom that is found in the simple pleasures. So feel the simple pleasure of Shavasana. It's a simple, beautiful pleasure to be at rest. Stay in the presence of your breathing. Melt your body as best as you can. And to deepen your breathing again. And let your eyes soften. Come into any movement that feels right for you. And eventually finding your way onto your side. Come up to sit as you're ready. And as you find a good posture, just notice this gift of moderation in all of our sense activities, the sense of a wise use of our energy. How can this support you? Let's offer our energy outward. Step into the flow. And let the channels open to give your energy to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.